So today we're going to talk about something called Vaisesika. It's this incredible ancient Indian philosophy that tried to do something, well, kind of impossible. They wanted to categorize everything in the universe. I mean, think about that. It's like they were trying to create a complete blueprint for reality itself. I mean, seriously, just take a second. If someone asked you to make a list of everything in the universe, where would you even begin? You've got objects, right? But what about ideas, feelings, even the empty space between things? It's a huge, almost mind-boggling task. But that's exactly what these Vaisheshika thinkers decided to do thousands of years ago. Okay, so how did they start? Well, they had this core concept called padartha. And it's a pretty cool idea. It literally means a thing to which a word refers. Basically, if you can name it, it's a thing, and it has a place. These padarthas, they're like the ultimate fundamental building blocks of everything, the most basic categories you can possibly have. All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty of the system. The Vaiseshika school came to believe that you only needed 7 fundamental categories to explain, well, everything, all of reality. And this super systematic, almost scientific way of thinking about metaphysics, it ended up being hugely influential for centuries of Indian logic and philosophy. Yep, that's the number. Just 7. It's a bold claim, right? That everything that exists, has ever existed, or will exist can be neatly sorted into one of 7 buckets. It's just an incredibly ambitious and kind of beautiful idea. And here they are. You've got substance, quality, and motion. That makes sense. Then things get a little more abstract, with universal and particularity. Then there's something called inherence. And, get this, a really fascinating late addition to the list, absence. Yep, the category of things that aren't there. So let's build our universe using just these 7 ideas. Okay, let's start at the beginning with the most important category, substance, or dravya in Sanskrit. This is the actual stuff of reality. You know, the physical and non-physical foundation that everything else is built on. Think of these as the bricks we're going to use to build our entire cosmos. And within that big category of substance, the Vaiseshika thinkers said there are exactly 9 fundamental types. Not 8, not 10, 9. And that's it. These are the only kinds of stuff that the universe is made of, period. Now this is where it gets really interesting. Look at how they split up these 9 substances. On one side, you've got 5 material ones, things that can actually move around, like earth, water, fire, and air. On the other side, you have 4 immaterial substances. These are things like time and space that are, well, they're everywhere, all at once. They're ubiquitous. And this is where you can really see their brilliant method at work. They didn't just make lists, they solved puzzles. For example, they looked at sound. They said, okay, sound is a quality, but every quality has to belong to a substance, right? It has to inhere in something. So, which substance is the home for sound? And they just worked through it with pure, cold logic. They said, well, it can't be earth, water, fire, or air because you can hear sound where those things are absent. Okay, so it can't be time or space either because they don't have specific, localized qualities. They're everywhere. And it can't be the self or the mind, the internal organ, because their qualities aren't perceived by our external senses. So just like that, they went down the list and eliminated all 8 of the substances they had. So what does that leave you with? The only possible conclusion is there must be a 9th substance. They literally inferred its existence, and they called this substance, this necessary medium for sound, akasa. It's a substance that exists for one reason and one reason only, because logic absolutely demands it. Another one of these substances that's just fascinating is the manas, which you can translate as the internal organ or mind. Think of it like a CPU or a gatekeeper for your consciousness. Your senses, sight, sound, touch, are being totally bombarded with information all the time. The manas is what connects to just one of those senses at a time and feeds that data to yourself, to your consciousness. It's their brilliant explanation for how we can focus on one thing and not just be a chaotic mess of sensory overload all the time. All right, so we've got our 9 basic substances. Our cosmic bricks are laid, but right now they're just plain bricks. We need to give them some character, some color, some life. And that's where our next 2 categories come into play, quality and motion. First up is quality, or guna. This is pretty much what it sounds like. It's what makes a substance what it is. The system has this whole list of 24 of them, everything from color, taste, and smell to more abstract stuff like pleasure and pain. But here's a detail that shows just how precise they were. They argued that the redness of one rose is a totally unique quality, a separate thing from the redness of the rose right next to it. They're not the same red. Then we have motion, or karma. This one's straightforward. It's what causes things to come together or move apart. And again, you see this amazing simplicity. They boiled all movement in the universe down to just 5 types. That's it. You've got going up, going down, contracting, expanding, and then a 5th catch-all category they just called going for basically everything else. Okay, let's recap. We've got our stuff, substance. We've got its properties, quality, and we have it moving around, motion. But now we need some rules for how it all gets organized. Like, how can we understand that all cows are part of the group cow, but at the same time, every single cow is a unique individual? They solve this with 2 really powerful, almost opposing ideas. First, you have the universal, or samanya. This is the timeless idea of cowness that exists in every single cow and makes them all part of that group. But then you have particularity, or Vaisesika. This is the secret sauce, the ultimate unique thing that makes sure that no 2 atoms and no 2 selves are ever exactly the same. So one concept groups things together, and the other makes sure everything is perfectly individual. And this idea of Vaisesika, of particularity, isn't just some small detail. It's absolutely central. In fact, the entire school of thought, Vaisesika, gets its name from it. That's how important the idea of what makes each thing unique was to them. We're almost done building our universe. We have the bricks, the paint, and the rules for how to sort them. But there are 2 last pieces to the puzzle. First, what is the cosmic glue that actually holds a quality like redness to a substance like a rose? And maybe even weirder, what do we do with things that don't exist? That brings us to our final 2 categories. That cosmic glue is called inherence, or samavaya, and it's not just 2 things touching. It's a special, inseparable relationship. It's the bond that connects a quality or emotion to its substance. You can't just peel the redness off a rose and have it by itself. That connection, that inseparable stuck-togetherness, that's inherence. Okay, and now for the final category, and it's a real twist. To make sure their inventory of reality was absolutely 100% complete, they did something kind of mind-blowing. They created a category for things that don't exist. That's right, the 7th and final padartha is absence, or abhava. And of course, being the systematic thinkers they were, they didn't just stop there. They broke absence down into 4 different kinds. First, there's prior absence, like the absence of a clay pot before you make it. Then there's posterior absence, the absence of that same pot after you smash it. Then you have mutual absence, which is just saying a pot is not a cloth. And finally, absolute absence, for things that can't possibly exist, like horns on a rabbit. It's amazing. By categorizing nothingness, they felt they had finally accounted for everything. And there you have it, Vaisesika, a complete, logical, and surprisingly elegant system for understanding all of reality, built from just 7 fundamental ideas. It really makes you think, doesn't it? If this ancient blueprint was so thorough that it even managed to categorize non-existence, what could our modern view of reality be missing?